All right, what's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here, aka the Geek from DFS Army, and this is our NFL Week 4 Week in Review. Use the wrong transition there. Oh well, that's not what I wanted. NFL Week 4 Week in Review. So, what we do every week over here at DFS Army, and everybody should be doing it, is going back at the end of each week and looking at what worked, what didn't. It's hard to do it. Right, we're going to look at what took down some tournaments on Draftkings this week. I'm going to focus Draftkings for this review because, quite honestly, it's all over the place if I try to work both sites. But we're going to work on Draftkings today, and I'm going to show some lineups I made. You'll see essentially in the content that I put out this week, these lineups will look a lot like that content. And we'll talk. I've got my cash lineup loaded up. I've got a couple tournaments lineups lined up. And in addition, what we're going to do in this one is we're going to take a look at what took down the DraftKings Millimaker, what kind of lineup that person used, how he achieved it, how we could have been millionaires this week had we just made a change or two or three. So let's get right into it. This week, I think the cash line, one of the things that I talked about in my notes on Sunday morning was how obvious the approach that most people were going to use in their, in their lineup construction this week appeared to be. And that obviousness basically happened because Derrick Henry was such a standout smash play on DraftKings in particular, and his salary was a little bit too low for his projection. So it became a week where you pretty much you had to get Derrick Henry in your lineup. The other thing that was unique about NFL Week 4 was that the DraftKings salary algorithm really fixed itself. It was very different from the first 3 weeks of the season where we found extreme values floating around. Like Week 3, when we could just load up on Madison and Barkley, it was really easy. Week 4, the salaries were pretty much correct. There was no clear pay down value. So it created a really interesting dynamic where we knew exactly what people were going to do. You're going to pay up. You're going to pay up for Derrick Henry. Then you're going to take a middling guy. The chalk was Montgomery, who went off. But Chuba Hubbard was in that mix. And actually, if we take a look at the chalkboard right here, it tells you in advance, who the people are going to be on. So, of course, Derrick Henry was the clear-cut pay-up option. And David Montgomery was, I'm not going to say the clearest cut based on ownership, but was, the leader at middling salary running back. So the recipe was right here on the chalkboard that we put out in DFS Army every single week. This is your ultimate tool for crushing cash games. Now, at quarterback, it was really interesting. I went a little bit different, but Josh Allen was the clear-cut sort of best quarterback of the week. Some people played Dak, Mahomes. It was really spread out. There wasn't a whole lot of chalk coagulating at the quarterback position, especially in cash games. So it could have been anyone. At wide receiver, I think, DJ Moore was the obvious play on the pay down side. Adams and Cooper Kupp were the clear-cut pay-up options, and Woods and Amari Cooper. Tyreek Hill's right here on the list. Deebo Samuel. So you see here, once again, some of the best plays mixed in with some misses, but some of the best plays are always identified right here on the chalkboard for everyone to see. In the end of the day, DJ Moore was nuts play. Tyreek Hill was the nuts play. Deebo Samuel was the nuts play. So we were dancing around the nuts. We were fondling the nuts. We're cracking nuts in our little fucking walnut cracker. We're all around the nuts, baby. Got nuts all over. We had nuts on our chin bouncing off. Fucking nuts. Actually, that's pretty gross. No nuts on the chin. Forget I said that. All right. So, but the nuts was pretty good. I don't know where to go from nuts on the chin. I don't know. I went there, and now there's no turning back. At tight end, a couple of, Dalton Schultz was hanging around. Evan Ingram. We had all these cheap guys. Will Dissly was sort of the obvious cheap guy, right? And Kelsey, you could not pay up for him. You could not afford him if you wanted to play all these other studs. Yeah, I mean, Cordero, dude. I got a Cordero story for you that'll make you vomit. And it involves one of my lineups that barely missed taking down not just some tournaments, but the King of the Beach contest, which me and my boy Kanger were in together. And I'm going to show you that one because I changed it last second, and I'm sick over it. Even now, I want to vomit. I actually made some bad tinkers on Sunday afternoon. Part of DFS is sometimes you tinker and it works, and sometimes you don't. So I'm just going to show you what I went with in cash, and there was a tinker in here that I regarded very much, but there are some good things here and some bad things, and I think this lineup definitely could have won. I don't really regret the lineup so much as just one move, one change, which kind of caused it not to be as successful as it could have been. So this was my cash lineup this week, and I only entered it in head-to-heads, and it had a 33% win rate. So this was a losing lineup. One of the nice things is if you put your cash game in head-to-heads, you don't really lose that much money, even if you're below what would be the normal cash line. So I always recommend doing that, especially if you guys aren't. Yeah, I mean, Bobby Klinkert knows what's up. Man, I should have listened. Bobby gave out on the DFS Army Wolfpack Mo Alley Cox as his favorite tight end pay down option, and boy, did that pay off. Bobby Klink, man, you're the fucking GOAT, bro. You are the GOAT. So what I want to say here is, in looking at this lineup, where did we go wrong? Like, it only cashed 33%, but I want to talk where we went right. Number one, where we went right was using head-to-heads rather than double ups, because in head-to-heads, even when you're not the nuts, you're going to win a bunch of your entries. Very safe way of doing cash games is head-to-heads. And especially for those of you who aren't locked out of $1, $2, $3 head-to-heads, you want to maximize all of those levels. So do $51 head-to-heads and use the only allow against one player function that DraftKings gives you. So DraftKings allows you, when you set up your own head-to-head, to make sure that people can't just snipe them all. You can say only allow one player against you. So I suggest throwing your dollar head-to-heads out there. Don't even bother picking opponents for it. Don't do unlimited. Do one player allowed. So only that means a shark can't come in and take all 50 of your head-to-heads. It only allows one. DraftKings has functionality when you create a lineup. So do that. Do that for the $1, make 50 of them. Do that for the $2, make 50 of them. Then if you do that for the $3, make 50 of them if they have those levels. The $5 level is a last resort, right? Depends on how much money you want to put on head-to-head each week. But if you're good with 50, 100, 150, that would be $250 worth. Then you can stick in those cheaper ones, or you go up to the $5 one. But always max out the cheapest level head-to-heads, because again, sharks are locked out of anything under $5. And sharks doesn't mean shit. Who the fuck? Fuck a shark, right? Fuck a shark. But they don't put up shitty lineups. You don't get to be there if you're getting easy wins. So you want to stick with the $1, the $2, and the $3 ones. Okay? Mo Alley and Van Jefferson, Bobby fucking Klinkert, man. This is why you got to sign up as a VIP at DFS Army, because you get the Bobby Goat calls in the various shows. Like, I mean, come on. Kick his ass CFast the other night. Come on. All right. So anyway, looking at my head, so where did I go wrong? I didn't really go wrong so much as Devontae Adams. So what I did was, and where I went right here was, everybody was paying up for Dak or Mahomes or Josh Allen, who didn't really work out at quarterback. I love Taylor Heineke this week. I told you guys how much I loved him. He was my favorite play of the week. He was $5,900. We saved $1,000 in salary over Dak or Jalen Hurts, who was also a good play, or almost 2,000 over Mahomes. So I went with Heineke. Now, doing that allowed me, and this is what burned me also, it allowed me to create a lineup where I could have both Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp in it, two GOAT wide receivers, right? Wrong. Obviously, that did not work out, because both Adams and I only needed one to do well. Both Adams and Cooper Kupp failed. The other miss on this lineup was last second tinkering. I kind of thought I could get a little cute. Everybody was going to be playing David Montgomery. I knew they were all playing David Montgomery. It was very obvious. Everybody knew what the chalk approach was, Henry and Montgomery. So I was like, hey, what if I switch it up a little bit here? And because I switched to Swift, figuring I had a little extra salary to play with. That did not work out either, but that really wasn't the killer blow. The killer blow in this lineup was that Adams and Kupp just didn't produce. If either one of them gets you the 25 they normally do, then this lineup cashes almost everything. If both of them do it, it's 100% winner. So I'm not upset about the lineup. I'm upset about the tinker to Swift here, and that's about it. I played Ingram because I knew that he would be high targets and low owned. And he did exactly what I expected him to do, which is get 6 targets, 5 receptions. Did he do that much with them? No, but I was happy with the play because I kind of thought, yeah, Disley was the other one, and I kind of thought Disley might get a 0. So I was like, you know what? I can get an edge on the field spending a little of that Heineke savings on Evan Ingram. Again, did it work out? A little bit, but not enough to make a difference. So, no, borderline break even. The other thing I want to talk about from my lineups is this specific one right here, which is a Heineke, McLaurin, Ridley stack. This lineup had some potential. I'm going to show you some of the contest it was in. And of course, in the King of the Beach qualifier, 10th place, pretty okay, top 10% in that, top 10% in the power sweep. But this had a lot of potential, and I made a tinker that I horribly regret. So I'm going to tell you how I originally built this lineup. Number one, I was trying to do an approach that would be a little different from the field. In other words, I did not want to use a super cheap wide receiver punt, inline, Westbrook, inline, that guy. Because Westbrook was in all my freaking lineups. And I was like, fuck this guy. He's not doing shit. You know it. You know when the $3,200 punt play is in every, like, you keep using him because it's cheap and it seems like a value. You knew that. I knew it wasn't going to work. So it's like, I don't like that for tournaments. So what if we try a more middling approach at wide receiver? That was my thought in this one. I had fallen in love with Evan Ingram a little bit because of the volume and, again, because of that pay down option. So I threw him in there, but hey, it would have been nice to have a Dalton Schultz or someone like that. But the real tinker that gets me now is in my original lineup, I used Cordero Patterson here at RB2 because it was just correlated in the game. I was looking, all right, so we got Taylor Heineke. We've got Terry McLaurin with Heineke. We've got a comeback with Calvin Ridley. I said, all right, QB, wide receiver, opposing wide receiver. Great. Then in this spot, I was debating between Mike Davis or Cordero Patterson. And I actually plucked in Cordero Patterson in the spot because Cordero had been getting 7 targets per week. He was on my sheet this week in case you missed it. Cordero Patterson on a Geeks Pick sheet, of course. I loved Terry McLaurin as a core play. And Cordero, I said, we can't ignore the fact that this guy is getting 6 or 7 targets in the passing game. Forget about the 6 or 7 rushes. I don't think that's enough to deliver fantasy goodness consistently. But if he's going to get 5 to 7 targets, and then I started to think, oh yeah, because this team doesn't have, Julio Jones, and because Gage is out, they need someone to throw to. They just don't have the bodies. So they're keeping Cordero Patterson in there for passing game work. So I had him in. And then on Sunday, I don't know what I was thinking. A little news came out that Elijah Mitchell wasn't going to play. And I was like, I got to rely on that news. It looks really good for Trey Sermon. He'll get all the touches or whatever. And so I shifted Trey Sermon in there. It was a fucking disaster. Because obviously that's a difference of almost 30 fantasy points. And if you add like the 25 to the 160, I'm going to the beach, right? It was just, that was enough of a difference. If you added another 25 to my score, I'm essentially, 64, 74, 84. We easily crush the win here. So it was just that one move that kept me out of the beach, probably kept me out of some other contests. I'm sure it didn't, let's see what it did here for the power sweep. Oh, I don't even want to think about it. 185. Okay. At least it wouldn't have won this, but it would have been at least a solid couple grand in this one. So not a winner here, but solid couple grand in this one. Now, what does it tell us? Again, I want to go back to the thought process with building these lineups here, because thought process and approach is more important than anything else. And if you look at just the tournament lineups that I built, the Heineke ones were always the best. But here's a Heineke version with Montgomery and Henry. See, it's a very similar lineup to the other one. In this case, I like Marquise Brown as well. Got him in there. Evan Ingram, same crap, but unfortunate in the flex, Brandon Ayuk. This one had potential as well. Only a 162. Very similar to the other one. But again, the thought process being, again, Heineke, McLaurin, Ridley. So you got your beautiful stack. Marquise Brown was just in here because he had dropped a bunch of touchdown passes last week and no one was playing him. So I wanted to get on him. I also like Corey Davis quite a bit. And if Corey Davis would have been in this one, like instead of. So here's another version of the Heineke. So here's what you do: you make the same lineup, you make these different versions of it, and this kind of one I want to show. You'll get a little bit of my approach to DFS. This will win on occasion. Obviously, it's less sexy to show this on a week where there's not these big wins, but here's another Heineke version, right? And I didn't make that many, but I love this play. So Heineke, McLaurin, Ridley again. Henry, this time Hubbard. Went with the cheap player here in Westbrook in order to get up higher and get Logan Thomas, who is Heineke's tight end. So in this one, we did Heineke, Logan Thomas, Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley. QB +2, come back with 1. Played our 2 sort of running backs that we liked a lot. Finished out with Corey Davis, who was great. What happened in this one? Logan Thomas got hurt early in the game, and, we never found out what could have been. And, of course, Chuba Hubbard disappointed as well. So that's how it goes. But what I wanted to show with this is just the process of building lineups. Every lineup kind of you want to build around a situation, a certain spot. Yeah, we had a nice little I'm trying to think of anything else here. I'm going to try to find a different one just so we could take a look at, like a different quarterback. Here's a Dak Prescott version. Dak, Cooper, Robbie Anderson, building around the game. Corey Davis, Derrick Henry, little ping pong here with Davis and Henry. So I'm trying to build secondary correlations into my lineup as well when I handcraft them. I'm not even seeing all of them. As I'm looking, but that's what I'm trying to build. It's harder to see it when you don't see the team names here. But building a primary correlative play, QB, wide receiver opposing, or QB +2 opposing 1, and then finding a spot in your lineup to put a secondary correlative play. All right, let's take a look at, actually, I forgot to mention this. Let's give some props to some big DFS Army winners from this weekend. Props. Doug Diggler took down the big MMA tournament. So props to you, Doug Diggler. You killed it again. I've seen your name many times on top of the leaderboard. So you are crushing it, my man. Great fucking lineup. Love Jamie Malarkey. I can't believe a 50-point loser was in the nuts, but that's how it goes sometimes. Really awesome stuff, my man. And great job fading that main event. Very hard to fade that main event. Last night's primetime slate, all the DFS Army ties up top. This is 200K to first. So, hey, props for the win, even if it's not that much money. And Frasig for putting the same lineup in twice. Bless you, my man. I don't even know how the fuck you put the same lineup in twice, but that's awesome. Mufasa over the weekend, 50K MLB win. Hell yeah. Good job, Mufasa. And Yafaria, a.k.a. Bobby Millions, with the Thursday night takedown, 40K on Fanduel. Really impressive stuff. Now, let's take a look at Doug Diggler, man. I've seen his name a lot. Like, I don't even know if he gets swag prizes anymore, but DFS Army members, guys, remember to put your DFS Army avatar on your FanDuel and DraftKings account so that when you do take down a big tournament, we send you an awesome swag bag. Fucking hat, shirt, sweet shirt. It's got a bandana in it, got like a bottle opener, there's all kinds of shit in there. There's bag holders, and we got all kinds of swag in there. All kinds of stuff. It's awesome. Love the swag. Get your swag. All right. Looking at the Millimaker, and this is the contest dashboard over at Fantasy Labs. I'm using this to take a look at the Millimaker winner this week, and I'm going to show you a couple of things. I'm going to show you a couple of things that are interesting. So here's the Millimaker winning lineup this week, and he just nailed it. And I think the biggest crazy play in this one, of course, is Saquon Barkley. No one played him, 2%, right? Cordero Patterson, very low owned. Great play, obviously. That's what helped you get the million. Only 6% owned. Crazy, but awesome. And then he went with some pretty chalky, I would say, or expected. Like DJ Moore was one of the chalkiest studs at wide receiver. Deebo Samuel, we were all over that. Corey Davis, somebody I loved a lot. I had him in a lot of my lineups as well. Deebo Samuel was over in my lineups. I didn't have enough DJ Moore. I kind of got a little cute with the thinking Trey Diggs would slow him down thing, but Trey Diggs played well, but it didn't matter because Sam Darnold just focuses one wide receiver. That's how he's been throughout his career, and he's doing that with DJ Moore right now. Moving down the list, I think the biggest thing that led to this win, because these are all pretty chalky plays. So he's got Dak Prescott exclusively to Schultz. This is the unusual part of him is he only played it. Yeah, I mean, these were plays. It was funny. The Dom station was forcing Dak to Schultz on Fanduel like crazy. Like if you played a stack with Dak, it would just default to Schultz. Really worked out well for those who just kind of ran it and let it do its thing. David Montgomery, obviously a chalky play at running back right here. No concerns. Saquon Barkley, Cordero Patterson, low owned, very low owned. I think the most interesting thing that he did here was just only pairing up Dak with Dalton Schultz. You know, the comeback with DJ Moore. So it was a Dak, Schultz, Moore combo. And that was just very unusual on the slate where more often than not, you would have just plugged in Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb with Dak. So fucking GOAT move, man. That's how you win $1 million. Jay Zinzer. Well done. Now, I want to show you guys a couple other things, as I always like to point out. So we're going to find a shark and kind of, Broranosaurus Flex is a good one. So we're going to find a shark and kind of look at their distributions this week. I always like to look at what the best players are doing in MME, and I study them just like you should be. You might, well, aren't you a good player? Sure, but you don't get good by wiggle dicking around. You get good by studying what the best people are doing and learning new approaches. It's like 2 years ago when we pioneered the idea of secondary correlations, and now everybody talks about it as if it's the most common thing ever. That's what we do. So taking a look at the Millimaker, I just want to show you once again, very important to show how many people who max this thing lose money. Okay, our calculations have been over the last couple of years that if you are max entering a tournament, especially a Millimaker, this Millimaker is not the top heavy. It works the same as most other things. If you're max entering a Millimaker, actually, we'll check and look at Carney's approach since he had a pretty good cash here. But if you max enter a Millimaker, look, these are 100 people. There's probably only 4 or 5 in this group that didn't lose money. So another reminder that every time you max enter a tournament, your expectation of profit when you make 150 lineups should be that you're only going to profit maybe once out of every 10 times that you do it. More often than not, you're either going to break even or you're going to lose. Sometimes you lose a little, sometimes you lose a lot, but you might be thinking that when you're max entering and you're losing money that you suck, but there's a boy, father of 3. That's my boy. So you might be thinking that you suck. There's Sens, another DFS Army name. It doesn't mean that you're bad, that you're losing money. There's Under Jones. So FJ Bourne. So you see the who's who of max entry players maxing the Millimaker. Most of them lose money, right? So let's take a look at someone. Let's just do a breakdown. You want to take a look at Carney's breakdown? Let's see how he does it, right? Click on him. User exposures, and here's what I like to look at. How much exposure does he do relative to the field? So let's take a look at Carney, who had a very successful day. So in terms of field leveraging the field, and this is sorted by leverage, he leveraged most with David Montgomery this week. Field was 20%. He went 40% almost. Loaded up on DJ Moore as well. And Amari Cooper, this was probably a stack. DJ Moore, Amari Cooper would have been in ping pong. And so far what I'm seeing out of him is that he embraces value massively, right? Because these players were all popping in the projection model as top values. So embracing value. Taylor Heineke was our number 1 value at quarterback. He loaded up on Taylor Heineke. I'm curious to see how much, Terry McLaurin. He's got a little bit of leverage on McLaurin, a little bit of leverage on Darrell Henderson. Inline Westbrook, another value play. So clearly, even Michael Carter, that's a wild one. Yeah, because he played so much Heineke and McLaurin, you see that he's well over the field as well on Calvin Ridley. Just trying to see here if there's anything that stands out about this distribution. Yeah, a lot of Dalton Schultz right there, 14%. Got a decent amount of leverage on the field on him. Played a lot of Sam Darnold. We'll take a look at in a minute and see what his best lineup was, but overall, max exposure to any player was 40%. So pretty conservative, well spread out approach to mass multi-entry right here. QB looks like 20% Dak, heavy on Heineke, and then kind of some of the value guys, and then pretty well faded some guys that were pretty heavily owned. I mean, Murray fade, Stafford fade, Josh Allen significant fade. Garoppolo played him. I don't know. All right. RB pool is pretty big here. He definitely does a wide spread of exposures. Montgomery and Najee Harris, second highest. Derrick Henry, okay, went under the field a little bit on Derrick Henry. Played the value guys, Davis, Sermon, Hubbard. Looks like a little bit over the field. Darrell Henderson, well over the field. Where did he go below the field? Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who actually worked out pretty well. Zeke, I thought was an interesting play this weekend. Jonathan Taylor, yeah. Like to have that one back and go a little above the field if you could. And then, but who cares? 100K, doesn't matter. And this is the whole thing. I wonder if defense really is what got him there. Yeah, Bills defense. There it is. So, let's take a look at the winning lineup. But my guess is, yeah, I loaded up on Detroit, which was the chalk, but then went the opposite and paid up the highest possible defense, 4,300, very low owned in a smash spot, and they smashed. Okay. Let's take a look at the winning lineup. I bet it has Buffalo defense in it. There it is, Buffalo defense. So, wow. Wow, guys. Take a look at this. 100K winner had the Chuba Dudbird in it. Had a Chuba Hubbard dud in it. How does this win? It's not even a crazy lineup. Darnold, Patterson, okay. No Derrick Henry, Cordero Patterson, dud with Chuba Dudbird, got a dud. But it's a Darnold, Hubbard, no DJ Moore? You guys seeing this? So this was a little bit, I'm going to call this, there's a little bit of, no DJ Moore? How does this win? Right? This was a Darnold Chuba stack with a bring back of Dalton Schultz. So essentially, he's setting his optimizer. He set his optimizer to do Darnold plus one player from his offense, one player of opponent, and it just happened to throw Chuba Hubbard in it. Now, it's funny because if he had DJ Moore, instead of DJ Moore could have been plugged in right over here. Not sure he could have afforded. Did that spend everything? So if he does that, if he just plugs in DJ Moore, it probably defaults from Hubbard down to someone like either Trey Sermon, which would have been the same outcome, or Darrell Henderson Jr., something like that, which would have been a little more points. Maybe could have gotten him the million. But this is definitely not a perfect lineup. But looks like, hey, man, it was good enough for, I think, what? Third place? MME don't always have to be perfect. Why was Van Jefferson popping up with no projection on the Dom station for FanDuel? I don't know why he had no projection. If you're saying that, I know Bobby Clinks was all over Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson should have been projected. So I don't know what you're saying. I don't know what you mean, Dave. If he wasn't projected, I didn't see that. But if he wasn't, you got to let us know. Like I don't know. Yeah. Easily like just a slight variation here. I mean, if he had just if he had just said Darnold plus wide receiver tight end, and then Darnold doesn't have a tight end that he throws to, does he? No, so it would have been Darnold. The way I did it was just Darnold plus wide receiver, same team, and it was a mix of just the two guys. Really, for me, it was just Robbie Anderson or DJ Moore. If he had done that, this lineup might have worked out even better. But check out the secondary stack, and this is what's important here. There is a secondary stack in this lineup: Cordero Patterson, Terry McLaurin. So it does bring it back around to the secondary stack. And I'm trying to see if there's any other correlation going on here that I don't notice right off the bat. So we've got Darnold. No, that's not even. Yeah, we've got Darnold, Schultz, Hubbard, one stack. Yeah. Oh, Deontay. Yeah. Wait, there's two secondary stacks. No. Patterson, Terry McLaurin. Do we have a Pittsburgh player? Yeah. Deontay, no Green Bay player. So no, that's your secondary stack right there. And of course, the key to this lineup was paying up for Buffalo defense. So I'd say a lesson learned here is sometimes in tournament, while I would never pay up for Buffalo defense in a cash game, it's too risky. When you do it in a tournament, you kill it. And Javad, listen, that is the end all be all of all DFS players who are mass multi entering. Where do you stop? When did I tinker too much? And I don't have the answer. But what I do know is if you study these winning lineups and these winning mass multi entry approaches or players, so like Carney, great, he won this one, but I don't know that person as a player. I'm not familiar with the name, right? But if we go back and let's grab a player that I'm familiar with. Okay, Broranosaurus Flex, well-known mass multi-entry shark, right? This is one of the best players in the game at mass multi-entry. So what I always like to do, I was like, all right, how does he do it? He's got how many players? 56 caching, top 1%, did very, very well. Take a look at his exposures. I'm curious to see, how many players in his player pool. So Broranosaurus is 95 players. People always ask, like, how many players should I have in my player pool? So, I mean, if you take a look at these numbers, and especially, all right, so here's Papa Gates. He uses 70. Let's use Papa Gates. Unho, bro. So many great players on this list. Obviously, these are the who's who. These are guys who can afford, $3,000 entry into the Millimaker. So you have to be a pretty good player to put that up. Papa Gates up a little bit. So let's take a look at him. He uses 75 players. And let's take a look at his leverage. He uses 75, but looks like... Oh, wait, I'm on defense only. Let me go all. Okay. So he uses 75 players only, but will go very heavy on spots that he likes. In this case, this week, he went very heavy on Amari Cooper, very heavy on Robbie Anderson. So, great minds. I did a lot of that myself. Loaded up on Sam Darnold, loaded up on DJ Moore. So basically, he built his whole week around Sam Darnold, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Dallas. So he loaded up on the Dallas stack, and you can see it. 40% Darnold. Fucking balls of steel for Papa Gates. I can't even think of following such a thing. But if you're going to do 40% Sam Darnold, you're going to have a shitload of Amari Cooper. You're going to have a shitload of Robbie Anderson. You're going to have a shitload of DJ Moore. It's just how your lineups are going to look because you're loading up on that one game. Did a lot of Chuba Hubbard. I assume that they're not in the same game as Darnold. Maybe he kind of hedged with Chuba Hubbard. I don't really know. CeeDee Lamb, not as high, but definitely above the field. Again, building around that game. A lot of Dalton Schultz. Again, building around that game. Let's just go position by position. I'm just curious how he does it. So he went very heavy on Najee Harris and Chuba here. Went away from the chalk a little bit. David Montgomery, tons of leverage on the field as well. Gibson, Trey Sermon, Zeke Elliott. I'm a little surprised actually not to see a lot more Zeke Elliott in his lineups considering how much he focused on that one game. Cooper, Anderson, Metcalf, Moore, Lockett, Debo. This was good enough to find that one lineup, guys. Tight end, Will Disley, Kittle, a lot of Schultz. Schultz really was the difference maker at tight end for Papa Gates. Let's go take a look at Broranosaurus again here. So you look at Broranosaurus, he's a little more traditional, 95 total entries, and his top Broranosaurus, another guy who's very clearly just taking the not the chalk, but accepting the value. Because as I look down here, these are all guys who are popping very intensely as big values on the slate. Again, DJ Moore, top value on the slate, just very overloaded on him. Mike Davis has been a value smash every week. He's not really producing, but he shows by projections as a big play. Debo Samuel was popping this week. Woods, of course, everybody was on Woods over, as a alternate to Cup, still getting lots of leverage. So let me just look. I like to look at it position by position. Let's take a look at quarterback. So loaded up on Josh Allen, kept it kind of even on Fields, Dak, and Heineke, and then just threw a little taste in of all these other guys. Interesting here is apparently a full fade of Derrick Henry. So his approach, or not a full fade, but a definite a fade to the field on Derrick Henry, only 22% against 32% expected. One interesting thing is we haven't seen these Millimaker guys load up on Derrick Henry. So that's very interesting from a, tournament point of view in my mind. Like, it's not like these MME guys are loading up on that. DJ Moore, again, very heavy on him, very heavy on Samuel. That really helped him turn a profit. Terry McLaurin, who I loved this week, a little bit of Tyreek Hill. I'm assuming this Tyreek Hill was what was the difference maker. And of course, he was very leveraged to not leveraged right at the field on Schultz, but it was probably enough. And let's take a look at what helped him not lose money. 36th place, $2,500 lineup. So in the Millimaker, you only need a 36th place lineup to sort of break even. And you can see here another Buffalo defense saved the day. More Debo Samuel. It's amazing. This lineup looks so great, but 36th place, so not enough to take it down. Not enough to take it down. Yeah, of course that makes sense. Listen, that's just how DFS goes. Of course, we all get the right players. Getting them all in a lineup together is the hard part, and part of the deal is getting past your cognitive bias as you're putting lineups together. Just like we're going to keep reinforcing it every week on the Players Club. We're going to keep reinforcing it every week on the content that we put out, that you need to first figure out what the field is going to do, and then figure out how can I approach this slate a little bit differently so that I can win a tournament. You're not going to win a tournament with this cash game style approach. Henry, middling, running back this week, stud wide receiver, cheap wide receiver, middling wide receiver. Quite changed it up a little bit, and then cheap tight end, 5K player in the flex like that. Everybody was kind of doing a similar format because of Derrick Henry, and because there were some. I thought it was because Devontae Adams, to be quite honest, or because of the pay up quarterbacks. Everybody's doing something similar, so you got to figure out a way to be different. Again, my way of being different in this one is just not playing the cheap wide receiver and going a little bit cheaper at quarterback. So you could find ways to be different without going too crazy. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Be back in a little bit. VIP only showdown breakdown. Hopefully Bobby Wow will be joining me here shortly to do that. So we'll be back looking at tonight's NFL showdown slate. And of course, good luck to everybody who smashed this weekend. Again, congratulations to all the big ones. I can't show them all. We had a bunch of mini-max takedowns and all these other ones too this weekend. So awesome. The tools were on point once again. Remember, use the chalkboard every single week. This is your guide to what people are doing. When you use this, when you watch Players Club, we put lineups together, you'll see this is the basic approach that everybody's doing. Here's how I can be different about it. So make sure you're thinking about that. Got another big week coming up. A lot of injuries at running back this past week. So we're going to have some values popping up. We're going to be talking about Samaj P. Ryan. We're going to be talking about one of the Williams brothers from Chicago. We're going to talk about Trey Lance. A lot of injuries this past week that are going to make NFL Week 5 potentially interesting. I'll be back tomorrow with a first look lineup where I will figure out what the pricing is on some of these paydowns. So again, DFS Army VIPs, I'll be back in about an hour or so with hopefully Bobby Clinks breaking down tonight's awesome showdown. Raiders, Chargers. Let's do this thing. If you aren't signed up at DFS Army and you are watching this, at the very least, just like the video, subscribe, do something to let us know you're out there. But more importantly, get set up at DFS Army as a VIP. Promo code GEEK, 10% off your NFL, Core 4, whatever you're doing. So get signed up at DFS Army. It is now the time. All right. Good luck tonight, everybody. I will see you next time.